My name is Emma Reynolds. I'm 28 years old. 13 years ago, on a stormy October night, my father looked me in the eye and said, "Get out. I don't need a sick daughter like you." I was 15, soaking wet, nowhere to go. The reason? My younger sister told a lie. A calculated, deliberate lie that my parents believed without question. 3 hours later, I was hit by a car. When my father walked into that hospital room and saw who was sitting by my bed, his hands wouldn't stop shaking. Last month, I stood on stage at my sister's graduation ceremony as the keynote speaker. My parents had no idea I was coming. When they saw me step into the spotlight, when they heard me tell my story to hundreds of people, well, let me take you back to where it all began. The backstage area smelled like dust and nervous energy. I stood in the wings of Riverside State University's grand auditorium, clutching my speech in hands that refused to stay completely still. Through the gap in the heavy velvet curtains, I could see them. Row 3. Lily, my younger sister, radiant in her graduation cap and gown. Honor cords draped around her neck like medals of war. She was laughing at something her friend whispered, completely unaware. Row 8. My father, Richard, his dark hair now streaked with gray at the temples. My mother, Patricia, still beautiful but with worry lines etched around her eyes that hadn't been there 13 years ago. They sat close together, proud parents ready to watch their daughter graduate. Their only daughter, as far as anyone knew. I smoothed down my navy suit jacket and touched the pearl necklace at my throat, borrowed from Maggie, the woman who had become my real mother in every way that mattered. 13 years ago, my father called me a sick daughter and threw me out into a storm. Today, I was the keynote speaker at Lily's graduation, and they had absolutely no idea. A drop of rain hit the window behind me. The weather forecast had warned of storms later today, an irony that wasn't lost on me. And suddenly, I was 15 again, standing on our front porch, the door slamming behind me, rain already soaking through my thin jacket. I closed my eyes and let the memory wash over me. It was time to remember. Time to understand how I got here. Time to go back to the beginning. 13 years earlier. October. I learned the rules of our house early. Rule number 1. Lily's tears were louder than my achievements. I was 11 when I won first place at the regional science fair. My project on water filtration systems had beaten 40 other students, 6th graders, 7th graders, even some 8th graders. The judges had called it remarkably sophisticated for her age. I ran home with that blue ribbon clutched in my hand like it was made of gold. My heart was pounding, not from the running but from excitement. Finally, I thought. Finally, something they couldn't ignore. Mom was in the kitchen when I burst through the door, breathless and grinning. "I won!" I shouted, holding up the ribbon. "First place, out of 40 students!" Mom turned from the stove, and her face lit up. She pulled me into a hug, warm and flower-scented. "That's wonderful, sweetheart! I'm so proud of you!" For exactly 7 seconds, I was the center of her universe. Then Lily walked in. She was 8 years old, still in her pink leotard from dance class. Her face was red and blotchy, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I messed up my pirouette," she wailed. "Everyone laughed at me. Jennifer said I looked like a baby elephant." Mom's arms left me so fast I stumbled. She was across the kitchen in an instant, kneeling down, pulling Lily close. "Oh, baby, it's okay. You'll do better next time. Jennifer is just jealous because you're prettier than her." I stood there holding my ribbon. The blue silk caught the light from the window. Nobody asked to see it. After a while, I quietly went upstairs and pinned it to my corkboard, next to my other ribbons, my certificates, my perfect report cards, my little museum of invisible accomplishments. That was the pattern. Lily needed more attention. Lily was sensitive. Lily required careful handling. I learned to celebrate quietly, to need less, to take up less space. Dad wasn't cruel. He wasn't a monster. He was just absent, always working, always on his phone, always reviewing case files for the law firm where he was climbing toward partner. But if Lily cried, he noticed. If Lily needed something, he was there. I remember once, I was 12, working on a history project about the American Revolution. I'd spent weeks on it, researching at the library, creating a detailed timeline with hand-drawn illustrations. "Dad, can you look at my project?" I asked during one of his rare dinners at home. He glanced up from his phone. "Later, Emma, I'm busy." Yeah, later never came, but when Lily, 9 years old, couldn't figure out how to curl her ribbon for a gift, Dad spent 45 minutes helping her, laughing, making it into a game. I watched from the doorway. Then I went back to my room and finished my project alone. I got an A+. The teacher displayed it in the hallway for a month. My parents never knew. One night, when they thought I was asleep, I heard them talking through the wall. Their bedroom was next to mine, and sometimes their voices carried. "You coddle Lily too much," Dad said. "She needs discipline." "She's just a child, Richard." Mom's voice was defensive. "And I don't want her to end up distant, like Emma." I lay very still in my bed, staring at the ceiling. Distant. That's what they thought I was. Not self-sufficient, not mature beyond my years. Not the kid who had learned to stop asking for attention because there was never enough to go around. Distant. I rolled over and pressed my face into my pillow. I didn't cry. I'd learned that crying didn't get results, but something hardened inside me that night. I wasn't distant. I was invisible, and I was starting to understand. In our house, that was by design. By the time I was 14, I'd perfected the art of expecting nothing. Straight A's? "That's nice, Emma." Lily's B- with a tearful, "I tried so hard." 20 minutes of consolation and a promise of ice cream. Acceptance into the National Honor Society. A distracted nod. Lily's participation ribbon from the school talent show. A spot on the refrigerator. I stopped showing them my report cards, stopped mentioning my achievements, started spending more time at the library, at school, anywhere but home. Then came the summer science camp. It was prestigious, a 2-week intensive program at the state university where actual researchers would mentor students in environmental science. Full scholarship. Only 30 students accepted statewide. I was one of them. The acceptance letter arrived on a Tuesday. I read it 3 times before I believed it. Then I walked downstairs for dinner, the letter tucked in my back pocket, trying to figure out how to share the news. We were eating Mom's roast chicken when I finally spoke up. "I got into the summer science program at the university," I said. "Full scholarship. 2 weeks in July." Dad looked up from his phone. "That's nice, Olivia." "Emma," I corrected quietly. "Right, Emma. Good job." And that might have been the end of it, another achievement filed away in the cabinet of things nobody cared about, except Lily burst into tears. "Why does she get to go away?" Lily wailed, throwing down her fork. "That's not fair. I don't want her to leave." "Lily, honey," Mom started. "I'll miss her, and it's summer. We're supposed to be together as a family." She was 10 years old and already understood exactly how to play our parents. Mom shot me a pleading look. "Emma, maybe you could skip it this year? Your sister needs you here. Family unity is important." "I need you here," Lily added, and the tears miraculously stopped just long enough for her to deliver the line perfectly. I looked at my father, hoping for an ally. He shrugged. "It's just a camp, Emma. There'll be others." I didn't go to science camp. Instead, I spent 2 weeks watching Lily go to the pool, to the mall, to friends' houses, all the things she supposedly needed me home for. She barely spoke to me. I learned something important that summer. In our family, my dreams were negotiable. Lily's whims were not. The money incident happened 3 months later. $50 went missing from Mom's wallet. It was a Friday, and Mom needed cash for the housekeeper. "Richard, have you seen—" Mom was rummaging through her purse when Lily appeared in the doorway. "I saw Emma near your purse this morning," Lily said, her voice sweet and helpful. "She was looking for something." I was in the living room, doing homework. My head snapped up. "What?" "No, I wasn't. I left for school at 7. But Lily's eyes were wide and innocent. "I saw you, Emma, right before I went to brush my teeth." I had left for school at 7 because I had an early morning study group. My teacher could confirm it. The school's attendance records could confirm it. None of that mattered. Dad called me into his study. He sat behind his big mahogany desk, the one that made him look like a judge delivering a verdict. "Did you take money from your mother's purse?" "No, I didn't. I wasn't even home." "Lily says she saw you." "Lily's lying." His jaw tightened. The pen in his hand stopped moving. "Don't accuse your sister." "But I didn't." "Enough!" The word cut through the air like a blade. "I'm disappointed in you, Emma. I thought you were better than this." My punishment, no phone for a month, and the science camp I'd been promised for the following summer was revoked. "We can't trust you with independence right now," Mom explained, her voice gentle but firm, as if she were doing me a favor. That night, as I climbed the stairs to my room, I glanced back. Lily was standing on the bottom step watching me go, and she was smiling. Not a big smile, not a triumphant grin, just a small, quick curve of the lips that disappeared the moment she noticed me looking. But I saw it, and I understood. This wasn't accidental. Lily wasn't just a spoiled kid throwing tantrums. She was playing a game, and so far, she was winning. October, junior year, age 15. His name was Ethan Cole. He sat 3 rows behind me in AP Chemistry, a quiet boy with messy brown hair and kind eyes. He was smart, really smart, but struggled with balancing equations. Something about the math side of chemistry didn't click for him. I didn't think much of him until he approached me after class one Tuesday. "Hey, Emma, I'm sorry to bother you, but I was wondering if you could help me with the homework. I saw your score on the last test and—" He ran a hand through his hair, embarrassed. "I'm drowning here." I shrugged. "Sure. Want to stay after class tomorrow?" "That would be amazing. Thank you." We started meeting twice a week. I'd explain stoichiometry while he took notes, asking thoughtful questions, genuinely trying to understand. He was nice, easy to talk to, completely harmless. What I didn't know was that my 12-year-old sister had a massive crush on him. Lily was in 7th grade, but she'd seen Ethan at some school event, I never figured out which one, and become obsessed. She walked past our classroom just to catch a glimpse of him. She wrote Lily Reynolds Cole in her diary with little hearts dotting the I's. I discovered this by accident when I went to return a pen she'd borrowed. Her diary was open on her bed, and the page was filled with his name in different styles, different colors, surrounded by doodles of wedding bells and flowers. I backed out of her room without touching anything. At the time, I thought it was funny. Harmless preteen crush. I had no idea it would destroy my life. It happened on a Tuesday. Ethan caught me at my locker between classes. "Hey, Emma, thanks again for yesterday. You really saved me on that redox problem." I smiled. "No problem. It made more sense once you saw the electron transfer, right?" "Totally." He grinned. "Hey, maybe we could study together for the midterm. Like, really dig into it?" "Sure, library after school works for me." "Cool. See you then." He walked away, and I turned back to my locker and saw Lily. She was standing 20 feet down the hallway, frozen mid-step. Her face was pale. Her eyes were locked on the spot where Ethan had just been standing. Then she looked at me. I'd never seen that expression on her face before. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't even anger. It was something colder, calculating. She turned and walked away without a word. That night at dinner, Lily barely spoke. She pushed her food around her plate, eyes downcast, responding to Mom's questions with shrugs and monosyllables. "Are you feeling okay, sweetheart?" Mom kept asking. "You seem upset." Shrug. "Did something happen at school?" Shrug. "Lily, honey, talk to me." But Lily just shook her head and excused herself early. Mom shot me a suspicious look, as if I'd done something to cause this. I kept my eyes on my plate. Later, in my room, I thought about the way Lily had looked at me in that hallway, the coldness in her eyes. Lily's silence is more dangerous than her tears. The thought came unbidden, and I pushed it away. She was 12, a kid with a crush. She'd get over it. I had a chemistry midterm to study for. Thursday, 2 days before the storm, our biology class had a guest lecturer, Dr. Margaret Harper from the State University, speaking about educational equity and access to STEM programs for underrepresented students. She was impressive, mid-50s, silver-streaked dark hair, sharp eyes behind elegant glasses. She spoke with passion about closing opportunity gaps, about how one intervention at the right moment could change a student's entire trajectory. I stayed after class to ask questions. Most students had already filtered out, eager for lunch, but I lingered by her podium. Dr. Harper, I wanted to ask about your research methodology. How do you measure the long-term impact of early interventions? She looked at me with interest. Most high schoolers probably didn't ask about methodology. We talked for 20 minutes about research design, about my interest in environmental science, about college applications and career paths. You have a curious mind, she said finally, handing me her business card. Don't let anyone dim that light. I thanked her and tucked the card into my wallet, next to my student ID and the library card I used almost daily. I didn't know it then, but I was holding my future in my hands. The storm warning came early. Severe weather alert, high winds, heavy rain, possible flooding. Everyone was preparing, stocking up, battening down. At school, teachers dismissed us early. Outside, the sky was already darkening, gray clouds piling on the horizon like an army gathering for battle. Lily still wasn't talking to me. She hadn't looked at me once since Tuesday. She moved through the house like I didn't exist, which, honestly, wasn't that different from normal, except for the weight of it, the deliberateness. I told myself I was imagining things. Mom made pasta for dinner. We ate in near silence, the weather alert buzzing on Dad's phone every few minutes. Wind advisories, flood warnings. The tension in the house felt electric, though I couldn't tell if it was the storm or something else. Lily picked at her food. Didn't eat more than a few bites. I caught her watching me once. When our eyes met, she looked away quickly. Too quickly. After dinner, I went to my room and started my English homework. Outside, the wind was picking up, making the old oak tree scratch against my window like fingernails on glass. Rain began to patter, then pour. The kind of storm where you're grateful to be inside. Around 8 o'clock, I heard crying downstairs. Lily, loud, heaving sobs. I put down my pen and listened through my closed door. Mom's voice, soothing. Sweetheart, what's wrong? Talk to me. More crying. Lily's voice, broken and barely audible. She. A long pause. Then, Emma! Dad's voice, sharp as a knife. Get down here. Now. My stomach dropped. I'd heard that tone before. The $50 incident. The times Lily had blamed me for things I didn't do. But something felt different this time. Heavier. I walked downstairs slowly, each step feeling like a countdown. The living room looked like a scene from a movie I never wanted to star in. Lily was on the couch, face buried in Mom's shoulder, her whole body shaking with sobs. Mom stroked her hair, murmuring comfort, shooting me looks that could curdle milk. Dad stood by the fireplace, arms crossed over his chest. His face was red, a vein pulsed at his temple. What's going on? I asked. Lily looked up. Her eyes were swollen, tears streaming down her cheeks. Mascara. When did she start wearing mascara? Leaving dark trails on her pale skin. And for just a second, less than a second, I saw something else behind those tears. Something cold, calculated. Then it was gone, replaced by the perfect picture of a victim. Tell her what you told us, Dad said. His voice was ice. Lily's lip trembled. Why do you hate me so much? What? I stepped closer, genuinely confused. I don't hate you. Then why? She hiccuped, sobbed. Why have you been spreading rumors about me at school? My mind went blank. What rumors? About me being a liar, about me cheating on that quiz, about me and... She broke off, buried her face again. I never spread any rumors. I don't even talk about you at school. Liar. Lily pulled out her phone, hands shaking. Then explain this. She shoved the phone at Mom, who looked at the screen and gasped. Dad came over, read over Mom's shoulder. His face went darker. What is it? I asked. Mom turned the phone toward me. Screenshots, a group chat, messages filled with vicious things about Lily, That she was fake, that she cheated on tests, that she stuffed her bra, that she'd kissed Tyler Morrison behind the gym and told everyone it was her first kiss when really she'd been practicing with boys since 6th grade. Horrible things, cruel things, things I would never say, but there was my name at the top of the messages. My profile picture, the one from last year's school photo, next to each cruel word. I didn't write those, I said, my voice shaking. Someone's using my account, or made a fake one. I didn't. Stop. Dad's voice cracked like thunder. Just stop lying. I'm not lying. And Ethan, Lily whispered, lifting her tear-streaked face. You knew I liked him, but you've been flirting with him, trying to make me look stupid. He asked me for help with chemistry, that's all. That's all? Lily's voice rose, trembling with what sounded like genuine hurt. You've been staying after class with him, meeting him at the library. His friend told me he thinks you're pretty. We're study partners, nothing else. I didn't even know you liked him until you tried to steal him from me. Lily was standing now, voice rising. And last week, you pushed me on the stairs. She rolled up her sleeve. There, on her forearm, was a bruise. Dark purple, the size of a fist, ugly against her pale skin. I stared at it. I never touched you. You did, Mom. Lily turned to our mother, fresh tears spilling. She did. I didn't want to say anything because I thought maybe she was just stressed but she's been getting worse, and I'm scared. Emma. Mom's voice was hard. This is serious. If you hurt your sister, I didn't. I never touched her. Then how did she get that bruise? Dad demanded. I don't know. Maybe she did it herself. The words hung in the air. Lily's eyes went wide. New tears flooded them. You think I would hurt myself just to frame you? Mom, that's crazy. She's crazy. I'm not. My voice cracked. I was shaking now, actually shaking. I'm not crazy. She's lying. She's been lying about me for years. The $50, that was her. And the vase, and please, you have to believe me. Dad took a step toward me. Is this true, Emma? You've been bullying your sister, making her life miserable? No! God, no! Please, just listen! I've heard enough. Dad's fist slammed down on the mantel. A framed photo wobbled and fell, glass shattering. Enough of your excuses. They're not excuses. They're the truth. Emma. Mom's voice was quiet now, disappointed, the worst tone she could use. I thought we raised you better than this. Lily sobbed into her hands. The perfect victim. The perfect performance. I looked at her, really looked at her, and for a moment she looked back, and she wasn't crying anymore. Her eyes were dry behind the curtain of her fingers, watching me, calculating. You're lying, I whispered. I know you're lying. I'm not, she said, and her voice didn't shake. She's doing this because she's jealous, I said, turning to my parents, because Ethan doesn't like her, because she wants attention, because that's what she does. She lies and you believe her every single time. That's enough! Dad's voice exploded through the room. I'd never heard him so loud. He walked toward me, and for a second, I thought he might hit me. He didn't. He just stopped, close enough that I could see every line on his face, every capillary in his bloodshot eyes. Something is wrong with you, he said quietly, so quietly. You're sick, Emma, sick in the head. The word hit me like a physical blow. Sick. I'm not. You need help, professional help. He turned away, disgusted. But right now, I need you out of my sight. The rain was pounding outside. Lightning flickered through the windows. Thunder shook the walls. Dad, it's storming. I don't care. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem. He turned back to me, and his face, the face of the man who was supposed to protect me, supposed to love me unconditionally, twisted with revulsion. Get out. I don't need a sick daughter like you in this house. I looked at Mom, begging silently. Say something. Stop him. Tell him this is insane. She turned away, kept her arm around Lily. I grabbed my jacket from the hook by the door. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely zip it. The front door opened onto a wall of rain. Behind me, I heard Lily sniffle, playing the victim until the very end. I stepped outside. The door slammed shut behind me. Through the window, I could see Lily watching me leave. She wasn't crying anymore. She was smiling. The rain hit me like a punishment. Cold, angry, relentless. Within seconds, I was soaked through. Jacket, jeans, sneakers, everything. Water ran down my face into my eyes, mixing with tears I refused to acknowledge. I stood on the porch for a moment, waiting. Maybe Dad would come after me. Apologize. Say he'd overreacted. The door stayed closed. The porch light flickered, then went out. I started walking. I had nowhere to go. No plan. No money. My wallet was in my room, and I wasn't going back for it. My phone was in my pocket, battery at 8%. I tried calling friends. Jessica. No answer. Amanda. Straight to voicemail. It was Friday night. Everyone was home with their families, safe and dry, watching movies or playing games, or doing all the normal things that normal families did. Not me. I headed toward the library first, moving on autopilot. Maybe I could wait out the storm there, sit in the lobby until they kicked me out. It was closed. Dark windows, locked doors, a sign that said, "Closed for severe weather." The bus station was 2 miles away. If I could make it there, I could sit inside, stay warm, figure out what to do next. I walked. Every step was heavy. My shoes were soaked through, water squelching with each footfall. My jacket clung to my skin, useless against the rain. Wind whipped my hair into my face, blinding me. I was so cold my teeth chattered. Thunder cracked overhead, so close the ground shook. Lightning turned the world white for a split second, and in that flash, I saw how alone I was. Empty streets, dark houses, just me and the storm. I thought about turning back, knocking on the door, begging to come inside. But Dad's face, the disgust, the word, sick, spoken like a diagnosis, a death sentence. Maybe he was right. Maybe something was wrong with me. Why else would my own family choose Lily over me, every single time? The bus station was still a mile away. The rain got heavier, the wind stronger. I was crossing at an intersection when it happened. The light was green. I'm almost sure it was green. But the rain was coming down so hard, and the wind was howling, and I couldn't see clearly. The car came out of nowhere. Headlights, bright and blinding, a horn screaming, brakes screeching against wet pavement. I tried to jump back. I wasn't fast enough. The impact threw me sideways. I felt my body hit the hood, a strange, disconnected sensation, like watching it happen to someone else. And then I was airborne, and then I was falling. And then my head cracked against the asphalt. Pain exploded through my skull. White, hot, all-consuming. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Rain poured into my mouth, my eyes. Everything was sideways. Wrong. I heard a car door slam. Footsteps running, splashing through water. "Oh my God!" A woman's voice panicked. "Oh my God! Oh my God!" Her face appeared above me, blurry through the rain. Dark hair. Familiar. Had I seen her before? "Sweetheart, can you hear me?" Her hands were on my shoulders, gentle but firm. "Stay still. Don't try to move. I'm calling 911. I tried to speak. My voice came out as a whisper. "My parents." "Your parents? Yes, okay. What's their number? I'll call them." "They don't—" I coughed, tasted blood, copper and rain. "They don't want me." Her face changed. Horror. Disbelief. Something else I couldn't identify. "What?" "They kicked me out." The words felt heavy, each one a stone. "Said I'm sick. Don't want me anymore." She stared at me, rain pouring down between us. Lightning flashed, and in that moment of brightness I saw her clearly. I knew her face. The guest lecturer from biology class, Dr. Harper. Her expression shifted again. Recognition, maybe, or something deeper. Something that looked almost like fate. "You're going to be okay," she said. Her voice was shaking, but her hands were steady. "I promise. I promise you're going to be okay." Sirens in the distance, getting closer. Dr. Harper's face was the last thing I saw before the darkness swallowed me whole. Sound came first, beeping, steady and rhythmic. Machines breathing for me, monitoring me, keeping score of whether I was still alive. Then light, harsh, fluorescent, burning through my closed eyelids. The smell of antiseptic, the scratch of hospital sheets against my skin. And a voice. The voice from the rain. "She has a severe concussion, possible internal bleeding. You need to keep her for observation. At least 72 hours. I tried to open my eyes. Too heavy. Everything was heavy. My eyelids, my limbs, my thoughts. Like someone had filled my skull with wet concrete. "Ma'am, are you family?" Another voice, professional and tired. A nurse, maybe. "No, I'm the one who hit her with my car." A pause. "I'm staying until her parents arrive." My parents. The word cut through the fog in my brain like a knife. I remembered. Rain, cold, the door slamming, Dad's face twisted with disgust. Sick daughter. I tried to speak, but all that came out was a groan. "She's waking up." The first voice again, closer now. "Emma? Can you hear me?" I managed to flutter my eyelids open. Everything was blurry, white and beige smearing together. Slowly, a face came into focus. Dark hair with streaks of silver. Sharp, intelligent eyes behind elegant glasses. Dr. Harper. "There you are," she said softly. "You're in the hospital. You were hit by a car. My car. I'm so sorry, but you're going to be okay." I tried to nod. Pain exploded through my skull. "Don't move. You have a serious concussion. Just rest." I closed my eyes again, letting the darkness take me back. Time became meaningless. I drifted in and out, catching fragments of conversations like a radio tuning between stations. "Contacted the parents. They're on their way." "Possible fracture in the left wrist. We need x-rays." "No, I'm not leaving. I told you, I'm staying." At some point, I heard new voices. Familiar ones, but wrong somehow. Like hearing a song you know played in the wrong key. "We're Emma Reynolds' parents." Dad's voice, strained and formal. "We came as soon as we heard." "Mr. and Mrs. Reynolds." Dr. Harper's voice had changed. Gone was the gentle warmth she'd used with me. Now it was cold, professional, edged with something dangerous. "I'm Dr. Margaret Harper." A pause, the sound of footsteps stopping abruptly. You're from the State University," Mom said. "The psychology department. I've seen your name in the paper." "I'm the Dean of Graduate Studies, actually." Her tone could cut glass. "I'm also the one who hit your daughter with my car tonight." "It was an accident," Dad said quickly. "We don't blame. She ran across the road in the middle of a storm." Dr. Harper's voice rose, sharp and accusatory. "She was soaking wet, alone, at 11 o'clock at night. She's 15 years old." Silence. "Mr. and Mrs. Reynolds, I'm going to ask you a question, and I expect an honest answer." Each word was precise, measured. "Why was your minor daughter wandering the streets during a severe storm?" More silence. I could almost hear Dad scrambling for words. We had a family situation," he finally said. "A discipline issue." "A discipline issue." "Doctor." Harper repeated the words slowly, letting them hang in the air. "What kind of discipline issue involves putting a child out in a storm that the National Weather Service classified as dangerous?" "We didn't. It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like?" Her voice was closer now. She must have been walking toward them. "Because your daughter told me something before she lost consciousness. She said her parents didn't want her anymore. She said you told her she was sick." I kept my eyes closed, but I was awake now. Fully awake. Listening. She's exaggerating," Dad said. but his voice had lost its authority. She was upset. She probably misremembered. She was barely conscious and bleeding from a head wound. I don't think she was in any condition to exaggerate. This is none of your business. Dad was trying to regain control, falling back on his lawyer voice. We're her parents. We'll handle this from here. With all due respect, Mr. Reynolds, you've handled it enough. The door opened. More footsteps. A new voice. Male, calm, official. Mr. and Mrs. Reynolds, I'm Detective Robert Franklin. We need to ask you some questions about tonight's incident. We haven't done anything wrong, Mom said, but her voice was shaking. Our daughter ran away from home. It was her choice. Your daughter was hit by a car at 11 p.m. in a major storm. She's 15 years old with a severe head injury. Detective Franklin's voice was patient but firm. We need to understand why she wasn't home. I heard movement. Someone pacing, someone sitting down heavily. There was a misunderstanding, Dad started. Our younger daughter, Lily, Richard, Mom's voice, warning. No, Patricia, we need to explain. Dad took a breath. Our younger daughter came to us with some serious allegations. Screenshots showing that Emma had been spreading rumors about her at school, a bruise on her arm. We confronted Emma, and she became defensive, aggressive. You believed these allegations without verification? Dr. Harper's voice cut in. We saw evidence. Screenshots can be faked. Bruises can be self-inflicted. Did you consider that possibility? Our daughter wouldn't. Your daughter is 12 years old. 12-year-olds are capable of remarkable manipulation when they feel threatened. Dr. Harper's voice was clinical now, professorial. I've studied family dynamics for 25 years, Mr. Reynolds. What you're describing is a textbook case of scapegoating. One child designated as the problem while another is protected unconditionally. It's a pattern I've seen destroy families. You don't know our family. I know that you put a 15-year-old girl out in a storm because you chose to believe one child's accusations over another's denials. I know that you used the word sick to describe your own daughter. And I know that if I hadn't been on that road tonight, she might be dead. The word hung in the air. Dead. That's not fair, Mom whispered. What's not fair is that your daughter is lying in a hospital bed with a concussion, a fractured wrist, and 2 cracked ribs because her parents cared more about their younger daughter's tears than her truth. How dare you? Dad started. I dare because someone has to. Dr. Harper's voice didn't waver. Detective Franklin, I'd like to speak with a social worker. Tonight. That won't be necessary, Dad said quickly. We're her parents. This is a family matter. The moment you sent a minor out in a storm, it stopped being a family matter. Dr. Harper's footsteps moved closer to my bed. I felt her hand on mine. Warm, protective. I'm not leaving this room until I know she's safe. Later, I don't know how much later, I heard quieter voices. Mom and Dr. Harper, alone. I know we made a mistake. Mom's voice was thick with tears. I tried to stop Richard, but you didn't. He was so angry and Lily was crying and you stood there while he threw your daughter out into a storm. A choked sob. I'm a terrible mother. Perhaps. Dr. Harper's voice softened slightly, but only slightly. The question is, are you going to continue being a terrible mother, or are you going to do something different? I don't know what to do. You could start by believing Emma, by actually investigating what happened instead of accepting your younger daughter's version as gospel. But the screenshots, have you looked at them closely? Checked if the account is real? Talked to Emma's teachers, her friends? Done any actual detective work? Silence. No, Mom admitted. Then maybe that's where you start. I woke up fully on the 3rd day. The headache was still there. A dull, persistent throb behind my eyes, but the fog had cleared. I could think again. Remember. I opened my eyes and found Dr. Harper sitting beside my bed, reading a thick academic journal. She looked tired, dark circles under her eyes, her elegant clothes replaced by a simple sweater and jeans. But she was there. She'd been there the whole time. You're awake. She set down the journal and smiled. How do you feel? Like I got hit by a car. Fair enough. Her smile widened slightly. I'm so sorry, Emma. The road was wet, and you came out of nowhere, and It wasn't your fault. My voice was hoarse. I wasn't looking. The rain was so heavy. Still, I should have been driving slower. We sat in silence for a moment. Outside the window, the sun was shining. The storm had passed, leaving behind a world that looked washed clean. My parents? I asked. Dr. Harper's expression tightened. They came, once, brought some clothes, dropped off some schoolwork, stayed about 20 minutes. Once, in 3 days. I should have been hurt. Instead, I just felt empty. Like I'd always known it would be this way. Why are you still here? I asked. What do you mean? You're a professor. Dean of something? You must have work, responsibilities. Why are you sitting in a hospital room with a kid you don't know? Dr. Harper was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached into her purse and pulled out her wallet. Inside was a photograph, worn at the edges, clearly handled often. A girl, about my age. Brown hair, bright smile, a soccer jersey with the number 7. Catherine, Dr. Harper said softly. My daughter. She's pretty. She was. Past tense. She died 10 years ago. Car accident. She was 15. The same age as me. The night I hit you, Dr. Harper continued, it was the anniversary of her death. I was driving to the cemetery to visit her grave. I do it every year. Same route, same time. She looked at the photograph, then at me. When I saw you step into the road, for a moment, just a moment, I thought it was her, Catherine. Same height, same build, same age. My foot hit the brake, but the road was wet and the car skidded. You thought I was your daughter? For a split second. And then I hit you. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. For 10 years, I've wished I could go back, change things, save her. And then, there you were, a 15-year-old girl alone in a storm, hurt and bleeding. And you told me your parents didn't want you. She reached out and took my hand. I couldn't save Catherine. But maybe I could save you. The social worker came on day 4. Her name was Rita Washington. She had kind eyes and a gentle voice, and she asked questions without judgment about my home, my family, what happened that night. I told her everything, about Lily's lies, about the pattern that had been going on for years, the constant accusations, the automatic belief in her innocence and my guilt, about the word sick, and the door slamming and the rain and the road. Rita listened, took notes, nodded in all the right places. Emma, she said when I finished, you have options. You don't have to go back to that house. Where else would I go? A knock on the door. Dr. Harper stepped in. She could stay with me, she said. I stared at her. What? Foster placement, temporary, until we figure out a more permanent arrangement. She looked at Rita. I've already started the paperwork. I've been a certified foster parent for 8 years. After Catherine died, I thought maybe... She trailed off, then straightened. If she wants it, if she's willing. Why? My voice cracked. Why would you do that? You don't even know me. Dr. Harper sat on the edge of my bed, her eyes meeting mine. Because someone did it for me once, she said. When I was 17, my parents kicked me out. Different reason, same result. I was alone, scared, had nowhere to go. A teacher from my high school took me in, let me stay with her until I finished school, helped me apply to colleges, believed in me when no one else did. She touched my hand. I wouldn't be who I am today without her, and I always swore that if I ever had the chance to do the same for someone else, to be the person who shows up when everyone else walks away, I would take it. Tears were running down my face. I couldn't stop them. You're brilliant, Emma. I saw it the day you came to my lecture. You have potential most kids never dream of. She squeezed my hand. Don't let anyone tell you you're sick. Don't let anyone dim that light. I looked at her, this stranger who had hit me with her car and then refused to leave my side. This woman who had lost her own daughter and seen something worth saving in me. I'll understand if you want to go home, she added softly. But if you want something different, I'm here. I thought about the house I'd grown up in, the blue ribbons no one noticed, the achievements that never mattered, the constant feeling of being invisible, of being wrong, of being too much trouble to love. I thought about Lily's smile as I walked into the storm. I thought about Dad's face, twisted with disgust. Sick daughter. And I thought about Dr. Harper's hand on mine, warm and steady. I want to come with you, I said. 6 months later, I was a different person. Same name, same face, different life. Dr. Harper's house, Maggie's house, she insisted I call her Maggie, was everything my old home wasn't. Quiet, organized, full of books and plants and soft classical music. No screaming, no accusations, no walking on eggshells waiting for the next crisis. She gave me the guest room on the second floor. Decorate it however you want, she said. It's yours now. I transferred schools. Started fresh at a place where no one knew about Lily, about my parents, about the storm. I was just Emma, smart, focused, finally free to breathe, but healing wasn't easy. The nightmares came almost every night in the beginning. I'd wake up gasping, drenched in sweat, hearing my father's voice. Sick daughter, sick daughter, sick. Sometimes I'd dream about the car, the headlights, the impact, the rain filling my mouth. And sometimes, the worst times, I'd dream that I was still in that house, that Maggie had never stopped, that I was still invisible, still wrong, still waiting for someone to see me. Maggie suggested therapy after the third week of me crying in the bathroom at 3 a.m. You've been through trauma, she said gently over breakfast. There's no shame in getting help. I'm not, I started, then stopped. I'm not sick was what I'd wanted to say. But that was the problem, wasn't it? Dad had used that word like a weapon, and now I flinched at anything that suggested I needed help. Going to therapy doesn't mean something is wrong with you, Maggie said, reading my mind. It means something happened to you. There's a difference. I went. Doctor. Williams was a soft-spoken man in his 50s with a wall of diplomas and a box of tissues that saw a lot of use. He didn't push. He just asked questions and listened to the answers. How did you feel when your father called you sick? He asked in our third session. I stared at the carpet for a long time. Like maybe he was right, I finally said. Like, why else would they believe Lily every time? Why else would they choose her over me? Maybe there really was something wrong with me. Something broken. Something I couldn't see but everyone else could. And now, do you still believe that? I thought about Maggie, about the way she listened when I talked, really listened, about the way she celebrated my small victories, a good grade, a new friend, a day without nightmares, about the way she said I'm proud of you and meant it. I'm starting to think maybe he was wrong, I said slowly. Maybe the problem wasn't me. Maybe it was them. Dr. Williams smiled. That's progress. Bah, school was easier than I expected, without Lily's shadow hanging over me, without the constant anxiety of waiting for the next accusation. I could finally focus. I threw myself into my studies. Straight A's weren't just grades anymore. They were proof. Proof that I wasn't broken. Proof that I could succeed when given half a chance. Maggie exposed me to a world I'd never seen. University lectures on Saturday mornings. Research symposiums where professors argued about policy and methodology. Dinners with colleagues who treated me like an adult, asking my opinions, actually listening to my answers. Education is freedom, Maggie would say. Knowledge is power. No one can take that from you. She taught me about grant writing, about scholarships, about systems designed to help kids like me, kids from difficult situations, kids who needed a second chance. You're going to do something important someday, she told me once over pasta and salad, our standard Tuesday dinner. I can see it. How can you see that? Because you have fire, Emma. You've been through hell and you're still standing. That kind of resilience doesn't come easily, and it doesn't go to waste. I thought about my old family sometimes, not often, and not with the sharp pain of the early days. Just wondering, had Lily ever told them the truth? Did Dad ever regret those words? Did Mom ever stand up for me? Through mutual friends, people I'd known before the storm, before everything fell apart, I heard fragments. Lily was doing fine, still the golden child, still the center of attention. Richard had made partner at his law firm. Patricia had started volunteering at the church. They'd removed all my photos from the house. Every picture, every award, every trace of my existence, like I'd never been born. Good, I thought when I heard that. Let them erase me. I'm building something better. Senior year, I attended a symposium on educational equity that Maggie was helping organize. One of the speakers was a former foster kid who'd graduated from college with honors and started a nonprofit helping homeless youth. He talked about his journey, the group homes, the uncertainty, the moment a social worker had believed in him when no one else did. Every kid deserves someone in their corner, he said. Every kid deserves a second chance. Something clicked in my head. That night, over our usual Tuesday dinner, I told Maggie about my idea. There are so many kids like me, I said. Kids whose families fail them. Kids who fall through the cracks. Kids who just need one person to believe in them. What are you thinking? I don't know yet. A program, maybe. Something that helps them stay in school. Stay focused. Stay alive. Maggie set down her fork and looked at me with something like pride. Then you'll need a plan, she said. And a degree. And connections. And money. Money can be found. I can teach you about grants, about fundraising. But the vision? That has to come from you. I spent the rest of senior year researching, reading, building the skeleton of an idea. College was a blur of late nights and early mornings. I got a full scholarship to a prestigious university. Maggie's recommendation letter was glowing, but my own record spoke for itself. Perfect GPA, leadership positions, community service, and an essay that made the admissions committee cry. I majored in educational policy and social justice, minored in psychology. I wanted to understand systems, why some kids got help while others fell through cracks wide enough to swallow them whole. Summers, I interned at nonprofits, grant writing organizations, youth advocacy groups. I learned how money moved, how programs started, how to turn empathy into action. I made mistakes. I had setbacks. There was a semester junior year where the PTSD came roaring back, triggered by a news story about a girl who'd died after being thrown out by her parents, and I nearly dropped out. But I didn't. I went back to therapy. I leaned on Maggie. I pushed through. I graduated summa cum laude. Maggie cried at my ceremony. I'm so proud of you, she whispered, hugging me tight. So incredibly proud. At 25, I launched the Second Chances Scholarship. It started small, a single scholarship at one university, funded by a grant I'd spent 6 months writing and rewriting. The recipient was a girl named Maria, 19 years old, whose parents had kicked her out when she came out as gay. She graduated 2 years later with a degree in nursing. She sent me a letter that I still keep in my desk drawer. You saved my life, she wrote. Not just my education. My life. The program grew. One university became 2. 2 became 5. By the time I was 27, we'd awarded over $200,000 in scholarships. We'd helped 47 students stay in school, stay focused, stay hopeful. Media started paying attention. Local newspapers, education journals. I gave interviews, spoke at conferences, always telling my story in vague terms. A 15-year-old girl who was told she didn't belong, never naming names. Then, 2 months before my 28th birthday, I got an email. Subject: Keynote Speaker Invitation. Dear Ms. Reynolds, on behalf of Riverside State University, I am pleased to invite you to serve as the keynote speaker at our upcoming graduation ceremony. I stared at the screen. Riverside State University, Lily's school. The school where my sister, my former sister, was about to graduate. I picked up the phone and called Maggie. I need to talk to you, I said. Tonight. The email sat in my inbox for 3 days. I must have read it 100 times, each word burning itself into my memory. Pleased to invite you to serve as the keynote speaker. Riverside State University. Graduation ceremony. Theme of resilience and educational equity. Riverside State, where Lily was finishing her senior year. where she would walk across a stage in a cap and gown, collect her diploma, and smile for photographs with our parents. Our parents, who had erased me from their lives like I was a mistake that could be whited out. On the third night, I drove to Maggie's house for our weekly dinner. She'd moved to a smaller place after retiring from the university, a cozy cottage with a garden she spent hours tending, the kind of home that felt like a hug when you walked through the door. "You look like you haven't slept," she said, handing me a glass of wine. "I haven't. Not much." We settled into our usual spots, her in the worn leather armchair, me on the couch with the quilted throw she'd made herself. The smell of roasting chicken filled the air, familiar and comforting. "Tell me," she said. So I told her about the email, about Riverside State, about Lily. Maggie listened without interrupting, her expression thoughtful. "What do you want to do?" she asked when I finished. "I don't know." I stared into my wine glass. Part of me wants to decline, walk away, keep building my life without them in it. And the other part? The other part. I set down the glass. They don't know who I am, Maggie. They don't know what I've built. In their heads, I'm probably dead or homeless or I don't know what they think. Maybe they don't think about me at all. And you want them to know? I stopped, searching for the right words. I want closure, not revenge. I don't want to hurt them. I just want them to see, to understand what they threw away, what I became despite them. Maggie was quiet for a long moment. The clock on the mantel ticked softly. "There's a difference between revenge and truth," she finally said. "Revenge seeks to wound. Truth seeks to illuminate. If you do this, if you stand on that stage and tell your story, what's your intention?" To close the chapter, properly, with honesty, not anger. And if they're hurt by the truth? I met her eyes. They hurt me first, for years. They chose Lily's lies over my reality. They called me sick and threw me out in a storm. I took a breath. But I'm not doing this to make them suffer. I'm doing this because my story matters. Because standing in front of them, showing them who I became, that's not vindictive. That's honest. Maggie reached across and squeezed my hand. "Then do it," she said. "On your terms, with your head held high. Show them who you are now." The next morning, I called David Mitchell, my deputy director. "Tell President Walsh I accept the invitation." "Are you sure?" David knew pieces of my history, not the details, but enough to understand this wasn't a simple speaking engagement. "I'm sure." "Okay, I'll make the arrangements." A pause. "Emma, whatever happens, you've got this." I hung up and stared out my office window at the city below. Somewhere out there, Lily was probably planning her graduation party, picking out her outfit, practicing her smile for photos. She had no idea what was coming. Neither did I, really. But for the first time in 13 years, I was ready to find out. The 3 weeks before graduation felt like preparing for battle. I didn't stalk them, that's not what this was, but I needed to understand what I was walking into. So I did what any researcher would do. I gathered information. Lily's social media was public. Of course it was. She'd always craved attention, and privacy settings would limit her audience. Her Instagram was a carefully curated gallery of perfection. Brunch with friends, aesthetically arranged. Study sessions that looked more like photo shoots, laptops and lattes arranged just so. Beach trips, concert selfies. A life that screamed, "Look how happy I am. Look how perfect everything is." I scrolled through months of posts, noting what wasn't there as much as what was. No mention of a sister, no old photos from childhood, no throwback posts about family memories. I had been completely erased. One post made me pause. Lily at dinner with our parents, wine glasses raised, everyone smiling, celebrating my last semester with the 2 best people in the world. "Love you, Mom and Dad. Hashtag blessed, hashtag family first, hashtag only child. Only child." I screenshot it, not for revenge, just for proof. Proof of how thoroughly she'd rewritten history. Through old acquaintances, people I'd known before the storm, casual Facebook friends I'd never unfriended, I heard other things. Lily told everyone she was an only child, had for years, but the story varied depending on the audience. To casual friends, I don't have siblings. To closer friends, I had a sister, but she passed away when I was 12. To her roommate, apparently, after too much wine one night. My sister died in a car accident. It was really traumatic. I don't like to talk about it. I read that last one 3 times. She told people I was dead. Part of me wanted to be angry. Part of me wanted to laugh. Mostly, I just felt tired. Of course, Lily had killed me off. It was easier than explaining the truth. Easier than admitting that her sister was alive somewhere, building a life without her. Easier than facing questions about why we weren't in contact. Dead sisters don't contradict your narrative. I also researched the ceremony itself. President William Walsh had been at Riverside State for 15 years. Well-respected, known for his commitment to diversity and inclusion. He'd specifically requested me for the keynote after reading an article about second chances in an education journal. Ms. Reynolds's work embodies everything this ceremony should represent, his assistant had written in a follow-up email. Resilience, equity, the transformative power of education. Ironic, really. He wanted me to inspire his graduates with a story of overcoming adversity. He had no idea that one of those graduates was the source of my adversity. The program would list me as Emma Reynolds, Director, Second Chances Scholarship Program. My name, but buried in the back with the other speakers. Most people didn't read those sections carefully. They were too busy looking for their own names, their families' seats, the schedule of events. Richard and Patricia wouldn't connect the dots until I walked onto that stage. And Lily? Lily would probably be too busy taking selfies to notice the speaker lineup at all. I wrote the speech in pieces. Late nights at my desk, coffee going cold beside my laptop. Early mornings before work, when the city was still quiet and my thoughts were clearest. Weekend afternoons at Maggie's kitchen table, reading drafts aloud while she listened with her editor's ear. Don't name them, she advised early on. Tell your story. Let the audience connect the dots themselves. Anyone paying attention will understand. And if they don't? Then they'll still hear a powerful message about resilience and second chances. Either way, you've told your truth. The speech went through a dozen drafts. I cut paragraphs that felt too angry, added sections that felt too clinical. Found the balance between personal and professional, between vulnerable and victimized. The opening focused on statistics, educational inequity, the millions of students who fall through systemic cracks each year. Safe territory, establishing my expertise. Then the pivot. Let me tell you about a 15-year-old girl. She was told she didn't belong, that something was fundamentally wrong with her, that she was too broken to keep. One night, in the middle of a storm, she was put out of her home, told to leave, told she wasn't wanted anymore. She wandered alone in that storm for hours. No phone, no money, no place to go. She was hit by a car. Nearly died. I practiced in front of the mirror, watching my face stay calm, composed, professional. This wasn't about breaking down. This was about standing up. But someone stopped. Someone helped. Someone saw potential where everyone else saw problems. That person became her family, her mentor, her mother in every way that mattered. That 15-year-old girl was me. I let the words settle, imagined them landing in a silent auditorium. I'm here today because Dr. Margaret Harper didn't give up on me when my own family did. She taught me that rejection isn't the end. It's a beginning. She taught me that family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's choice. Sometimes it's the people who show up when everyone else walks away. The ending focused on the graduates, on their futures, on the message I wanted them to carry into the world. Your worth is not determined by who stays. It's determined by how you grow after they leave. You will face rejection, disappointment, people who underestimate you. That's guaranteed, but you get to decide what happens next. You get to choose who you become. Maggie cried the first time I read her the final draft. It's perfect, she said, wiping her eyes. Honest, powerful, everything it should be. I hoped she was right. Graduation day. I woke at 5 a.m., too wired to sleep any longer. Outside my apartment window, the sky was just beginning to lighten. pale pink and orange streaking across the horizon. I showered, dried my hair, put on makeup with careful, steady hands. The navy suit I'd chosen was professional, but not severe. The pearl necklace was Maggie's. She'd pressed it into my hands the night before. "My mother gave this to me when I graduated college," she said. "I wore it when Catherine was born, when I got tenure, every important moment of my life." She fastened it around my neck. "Now it's for you." I looked in the mirror. The woman looking back bore no resemblance to the soaking, shivering girl who'd been thrown out 13 years ago. This woman was confident, successful, whole. "Show them who you are now." I grabbed my purse, my speech notes, and my keys. Time to go. Riverside State's campus was beautiful in the morning light. Old brick buildings with ivy climbing the walls. Manicured lawns where students in caps and gowns were already gathering, posing for photos, hugging family members. The air hummed with excitement and possibility. That particular energy of endings and beginnings that graduation days always carry. I arrived early, as planned. David met me in the parking lot, looking slightly nervous on my behalf. "You okay?" "I'm okay." "President Walsh is excited to meet you. His assistant said he's read all your published papers." David paused. "Emma, whatever happens today—" "I know." I squeezed his arm. "Thank you for being here." We walked toward the auditorium together. The building was massive, columned entrance, stained glass windows, the kind of architecture designed to make you feel small and odd. Inside, controlled chaos. Faculty adjusting robes, staff testing microphones, students peeking through curtains at the rapidly filling seats, looking for their families. President Walsh found me near the backstage entrance. He was tall and silver-haired, with the kind of warm, crinkled eyes that made you trust him immediately. "Ms. Reynolds, we're so honored to have you." He shook my hand with both of his. "Your work is extraordinary. These students are going to be inspired." "Thank you, sir. I'm honored to be here." "Is there anything you need? Water? A quiet space to prepare?" "I'm fine, just ready to begin." He beamed. "Wonderful. You're on after my opening remarks. About 20 minutes. 20 minutes. I found a spot in the wings where I could see through a gap in the curtains. The auditorium was filling rapidly now, hundreds of people streaming in, finding seats, waving to graduates across the room. I scanned the rows, searching. Row 3. There she was, Lily. 13 years had changed her. She was a woman now, not the 12-year-old who'd smiled as I walked into the storm. Pretty, with Patricia's delicate features and Richard's sharp jaw. Honor cords draped around her neck. She'd done well, apparently. She was laughing at something her neighbor said, head thrown back, perfectly at ease. The golden child, still golden. I moved my gaze to row 8. Richard and Patricia. My father looked older. The gray at his temples had spread. His face was more lined than I remembered. But he still sat with that same rigid posture, that same air of controlled authority. Patricia looked tired. Beautiful still, but worn. She kept glancing around the auditorium, searching for something, or someone. My chest tightened. I forced myself to breathe. A hand touched my shoulder. "Maggie." "I'm here," she said softly. "Front row, stage right. Just look for me if you need to." I hugged her hard. "Thank you. For everything." "You've got this, Emma. I believe in you." She slipped away to find her seat. I watched her go, then turned back to the curtain. President Walsh was approaching the podium. The crowd was settling. It was almost time. "Good morning, graduates, families, and honored guests." President Walsh's voice boomed through the speakers, warm and welcoming. The auditorium fell silent. "Today we celebrate achievement, resilience, the boundless potential of our students as they step into the next chapter of their lives." I stood in the wings, speech notes in hand, heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. Our keynote speaker embodies these values. She has dedicated her career to ensuring that every student, regardless of circumstance, has access to opportunity. Her work has helped dozens of young people overcome adversity and achieve their dreams. I thought of Maria, my first scholarship recipient, of the 46 students who came after her, of every email I'd received saying, "You changed my life. You saved my life. You gave me hope." This was bigger than revenge, bigger than closure. This was about every kid who'd ever been told they weren't enough. Please welcome the director of the Second Chances Scholarship Program, Ms. Emma Reynolds. Applause. Polite, expectant. I stepped into the light. The stage was enormous. The podium stood center, microphone waiting, hundreds of faces arranged in neat rows beyond the footlights. I walked with measured steps, heels clicking against the floor. Confident. Calm. I had earned this moment. And then I saw Lily. She was clapping automatically, still half turned toward her friend, whispering something. Then her eyes lifted to the stage, scanning the approaching speaker with mild curiosity. And froze. Her hands stopped mid-clap. Her smile dissolved. Confusion flickered across her face, then recognition, then shock. Pure, unfiltered shock. Her mouth opened slightly. No sound came out. I reached the podium, adjusted the microphone, let my gaze sweep across the crowd as if I hadn't noticed her at all. But I had. And she knew. In row 8, Richard and Patricia were still clapping, oblivious. Just polite audience members applauding a speaker whose name they hadn't registered. I cleared my throat. "Good morning." My voice carried through the auditorium, clear and steady. "Thank you, President Walsh, for that generous introduction." Richard's head snapped up. I saw him lean forward, squinting, trying to place the voice, trying to reconcile what he was hearing with what he was seeing. Patricia's hand flew to her chest. "It's an honor to be here today," I continued, my voice not wavering, "to celebrate this graduating class and all they've accomplished." Richard grabbed Patricia's arm. I could see his lips moving. That can't be." Patricia was already crying. "Today, I want to talk about resilience, about what happens when the world tells you that you don't belong, and you prove it wrong." I looked out at the sea of faces, young people in caps and gowns ready to start their lives, parents and grandparents proud and hopeful, faculty members who'd guided these students to this moment, and in row 3, Lily, frozen like a statue. Her friend was nudging her. "Are you okay? What's wrong?" But Lily couldn't respond, couldn't move, couldn't look away. Good, I thought. Now you know how it feels to be trapped. I began with statistics. Safe territory. The millions of students who fall through cracks in our educational system each year. The factors that predict dropout, poverty, family instability, trauma. The audience nodded along. This was what they expected from a keynote speaker. Data, research, professional expertise. Then I pivoted. "But statistics don't tell the whole story," I said. "Numbers don't capture what it feels like to be one of those students, to be the one falling through the cracks." I paused, let the silence build. "Let me tell you about a 15-year-old girl." Patricia made a sound, something between a gasp and a sob. Richard put his arm around her, but his eyes never left me. "She was a good student, straight A's, science fairs, honor roll, the kind of kid teachers called a pleasure to have in class." My voice was steady. I'd practiced this too many times to falter now. But at home, she was invisible. Her achievements didn't matter. Her voice didn't count. There was another child in the house, younger, louder, more demanding, and that child got all the attention, all the belief, all the love. In row 3, Lily had gone pale. Her hands were gripping the armrests of her seat. One day, the younger child told a lie, a calculated, deliberate lie designed to destroy her sister's reputation and her parents' trust. Whispers rippled through the auditorium. People were connecting dots, glancing at each other. The parents believed it, without investigation, without giving their older daughter a chance to defend herself. They believed the lie because they had always believed the younger child. Because it was easier, because questioning her would have meant questioning themselves. I gripped the podium, steadying myself. And then the father said something that would echo in his daughter's mind for 13 years. I looked directly at Richard. He was white as paper, hands trembling visibly. He called her sick. He said there was something wrong with her, and then he told her to get out. A collective intake of breath from the audience. It was October. A storm was raging outside. Rain, wind, flood warnings. And a 15-year-old girl was put out into that storm because her father couldn't be bothered to investigate the truth. Patricia was openly weeping now. Richard looked like he might be sick. She wandered for hours, soaking wet. Nowhere to go. No money, no phone. Just rain and darkness, and the echo of her father's words. I let the image settle, and then she was hit by a car. Gasps. Someone in the back row started crying. She nearly died. Concussion, fractured wrist, cracked ribs. She lay on wet pavement in the pouring rain, bleeding, and the last thought she had before she lost consciousness was, maybe they were right. Maybe I am broken. I paused, breathed, found Maggie in the front row, her eyes bright with tears and pride. But she wasn't broken. She was just lost, and someone found her. My voice softened. The woman who hit her with that car didn't drive away. She stopped. She held an umbrella over a stranger's bleeding body and called 911. She stayed at the hospital for 3 days, refusing to leave until she knew the girl was safe. I smiled, a real smile, warm with gratitude. That woman became her family, her mentor, her mother in every way that mattered. I gestured toward Maggie. Dr. Margaret Harper taught me that rejection isn't the end. It's a beginning. She taught me that family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by choice, by who shows up when everyone else walks away. Maggie pressed her hand to her heart. That 15-year-old girl was me, I said. And I'm standing here today because one person believed in me when my own family didn't. The auditorium was silent, completely, utterly silent. The Second Chances Scholarship exists because I know what it feels like to be thrown away. I know what it feels like to be told you're too broken, too sick, too much trouble to love. And I know how one person, one act of kindness, one moment of belief can change everything. I looked out at the graduates. To the class of 2026, you are about to enter a world that will test you. You will face rejection, failure, people who underestimate you, dismiss you, try to convince you that you're not enough. My voice grew stronger. Don't let them win. Don't let anyone else define your worth. You are not your family's opinion of you. You are not your worst moment. You are not the lies people tell about you. I found Lily's eyes, held them. You are who you choose to become, and you get to make that choice every single day. The silence stretched for 1 heartbeat, 2. Then the applause began. It started slowly, a few people in the back, then the middle rows, then spreading like a wave. Students stood, faculty stood, parents rose from their seats clapping, a standing ovation. I stood at the podium, letting it wash over me. 13 years of silence. 13 years of being erased. And now this, a room full of strangers on their feet, honoring the truth I'd finally spoken. In row 8, Patricia was standing, clapping weakly, tears streaming down her face. Richard remained seated, hands covering his face. In row 3, Lily hadn't moved, hadn't stood, hadn't clapped. She sat frozen, staring at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Fear, maybe, or shock, or the beginning of understanding. I stepped back from the podium. President Walsh was beaming, approaching to shake my hand. "That was extraordinary," he said. "The best keynote we've had in years." "Thank you," I said. It was an honor to be here. I walked off stage back into the wings and let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. It was done. The truth was out. Whatever came next, I was ready. The ceremony continued. I stayed backstage, watching through the gap in the curtains as President Walsh returned to the podium. But the energy in the room had shifted. People were still whispering, still processing what they'd heard. The names were called alphabetically. Row by row, graduates crossed the stage to receive their diplomas. When Lily Grace Reynolds was announced, I moved closer to the curtain. She walked across the stage with her head held high, smile firmly in place. But I could see the cracks. the tightness around her eyes, the way her hands shook as she accepted the diploma. The applause was scattered. Her friends cheered, but other people who'd been paying attention during my speech, just watched, whispered. Lily practically ran off the stage. After the ceremony, I slipped out a side door, hoping to avoid confrontation. I'd said what I needed to say. I didn't need a dramatic showdown, but the universe had other plans. Emma. The voice stopped me cold. I turned. Patricia was standing 10 feet away, alone. Her makeup was ruined. Mascara tracks down both cheeks, eyes red and swollen. Emma, she said again, her voice breaking. Please, can we talk? I should have walked away. I'd promised myself I would walk away, but something in her expression, not guilt exactly, but grief, made me hesitate. 5 minutes, I said. We moved to a quiet corner near the building, partially hidden by a large oak tree. The sounds of celebration drifted from the main lawn. Cheers, laughter, the pop of champagne bottles. I know I don't deserve this, Patricia began. I know I don't have the right to ask for anything, but I need you to know. Know what? That I tried. Her voice cracked. After you left. After the hospital. I tried to find you. I stared at her. What? I sent letters. To the address Dr. Harper gave the hospital. For 5 years, Emma. Dozens of letters. I told you I was sorry. I told you I believed you. I begged you to come home. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. I never got any letters. I know that now. Patricia wiped her eyes. I found out last year that Dr. Harper moved, changed addresses. The letters were returned as undeliverable, but I didn't know where they went. I thought you were just ignoring me. I thought you hated me so much you couldn't even read them. She was shaking. I should have tried harder. I should have hired someone to find you. I should have done 1,000 things differently, but I was a coward. Richard said we needed to move on, that you'd made your choice, that trying to contact you would only make things worse. And you believed him. I always believed him. The words were barely a whisper. That was my mistake. Believing him instead of you. Believing Lily instead of you. I was so afraid of conflict, so desperate to keep the peace, that I let my own daughter get thrown out like garbage. Tears were streaming down her face now. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it. I just needed you to know that I never stopped loving you. Not for one day. That every Christmas, every birthday, I thought about you, wondered where you were, if you were safe, if you were happy. I didn't know what to feel. Anger? Relief? Grief for the relationship we could have had? Why didn't you stop him? I asked. That night. Why didn't you say something? Because I was weak. She didn't make excuses. Because I'd spent 20 years letting Richard make all the decisions. Because I was more afraid of his anger than I was of losing you. And that will haunt me for the rest of my life. We stood in silence for a long moment. On the main lawn, families were taking photos. Normal families, celebrating normal milestones. I don't hate you, I finally said. I did, for a while. But I don't anymore. Patricia looked up, hope flickering in her eyes. But I can't forgive you either. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I took a breath. You were my mother. You were supposed to protect me. And when I needed you most, you looked away. She nodded, tears falling. I know. Those letters. If I'd gotten them, maybe things would be different. But I didn't. And I spent 13 years thinking neither of you cared at all. We cared. I cared. Not enough to fight for me. The words hung between us, heavy and final. I have a good life now, I said. A career I'm proud of. People who love me. I'm not the broken girl you threw away. I'm someone else entirely. Someone stronger. Patricia pressed her hand to her mouth. I built that life without you, and I need to keep building it without you. Not because I hate you, but because I can't go backward. I can't pretend the last 13 years didn't happen. I understand, she whispered. Maybe someday we can talk again, but not now. Not today. I turned to leave. Emma? I paused. I'm proud of you, Patricia said, her voice breaking. What you've become, what you've built. You're extraordinary. I didn't turn around. I know, I said. I finally know. And I walked away. I was almost to the parking lot when a stranger approached. She was elderly, late 70s, white hair, a kind face weathered by time. She moved slowly but with purpose, heading directly toward me. Excuse me, she called. Are you Emma Reynolds, the speaker? I stopped. Yes? I thought so. I recognized you from your photo in the Education Journal. She smiled. I'm Dorothy Miller. I was a neighbor of Dr. Harper's at her old address, before she moved. Something cold crept down my spine. I have something for you, Dorothy said. Something I should have given you years ago, but I didn't know how to find you. She reached into her large purse and pulled out a cardboard box, small, worn at the corners, secured with a rubber band. These came to Dr. Harper's old house over the years, after she moved. I kept them, hoping I'd eventually figure out where to send them. She pressed the box into my hands. They're letters, dozens of them, all addressed to you. My hands were trembling. Who sent them? The return address said Patricia Reynolds. Dorothy's eyes were soft with sympathy. I'm sorry it took so long, dear. I saw your speech today and realized this was why God put me in that auditorium, to finally get these to you. I couldn't speak. They go back years, Dorothy continued. The earliest ones are from right after you moved in with Dr. Harper. The most recent one is from about 8 years ago. After that, they stopped coming. 8 years ago, Patricia had given up. Thank you, I managed to say. Thank you for keeping them. Dorothy patted my arm. You go read those, dear. I think you need to. She walked away, disappearing into the crowd of celebrating families. I stood alone in the parking lot, holding a box of letters my mother had sent to me 13 years ago. Letters I'd never received. Letters that might have changed everything. I didn't open the box until I got home. I sat on my couch, the cardboard container on the coffee table in front of me, and stared at it for a long time. Part of me wanted to throw it away, to stay in the clean narrative I'd built. Parents who didn't care, who never tried, who deserved to lose me. But I'd spent my career telling kids that truth matters, that understanding the full story, even when it hurts, is better than living in comfortable lies. I opened the box. The letters were arranged chronologically. Dorothy must have organized them at some point. The oldest one was dated November 15th, 13 years ago, 1 month after the storm. My hands shook as I opened it. Dear Emma, I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I need you to know that I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have stopped your father. I should have demanded that we investigate Lily's claims before believing them. I should have protected you. I failed. I failed as a mother, and I will regret that failure every day for the rest of my life. Please come home. Or if you can't come home, please at least write back. Let me know you're okay. Let me know you're safe. I love you. I never stopped loving you. Mom. I couldn't see through my tears. There were 43 letters in total. They charted Patricia's journey through guilt, grief, desperation, and finally, resignation. Early letters begged me to come home. Middle letters asked just to hear that I was alive. Later letters simply said, I love you, and I'm thinking of you, and I hope you're happy, wherever you are. The last letter was dated 8 years ago. Dear Emma, this will probably be my last letter. I've sent so many, and none of them have been answered. I have to accept that you don't want to hear from me, that the damage is too deep to repair. I just want you to know, I have never stopped thinking about you. Every November 15th, I light a candle and pray that you're safe and healthy and building a beautiful life somewhere. Your father believes we should move on. He's taken down your photos, given away your things. He says it's healthier this way. Maybe he's right. Maybe holding on to hope that you'll come back is just prolonging the pain. But I can't let go entirely. You are my daughter. You will always be my daughter. And I will love you until the day I die, whether you forgive me or not. Be happy, Emma. That's all I ask. Be happy. Love always, Mom. I sat on my couch and cried for an hour. For the mother who had tried, imperfectly, too late. For the letters that had never reached me. For the 13 years of silence that might have been filled with reconciliation, if only the mail had found its way. For the girl I'd been and the woman I'd become, and the chasm between who I might have been and who I was. When the tears finally stopped, I put the letters back in the box. I didn't know what to do with them yet, didn't know if they changed anything, or if too much time had passed for change to matter. But I knew one thing: the story was more complicated than I'd believed, and maybe that was okay. Maybe most stories are. A week passed. The letters sat on my coffee table like a wound I couldn't stop touching. Every morning I'd walk past them. Every evening I'd read one or two, then put them back. The words blurred together after a while. I'm sorry, I love you, please forgive me, but the weight of them never lessened. 43 letters. 5 years of trying. 8 years of silence after that. Patricia had given up eventually. Who could blame her? When you pour your heart into letters that are never answered, eventually you have to stop. Eventually you have to accept that the person on the other end doesn't want to hear from you. Except I had wanted to hear from her. Desperately in those early years. I'd lain awake in Maggie's guest room, staring at the ceiling, wondering if my mother was thinking about me, wondering if she regretted standing silent while my father threw me away. Now I knew. She had been thinking about me. She had been writing. She had been trying. And I had never known. You're distracted, Maggie said over dinner that Friday. We were at her cottage eating the pasta primavera that had become our tradition. Outside, spring was finally arriving, flowers blooming in her garden, birds returning from wherever birds went in winter. I found something out, I said. About Patricia. I told her about Dorothy Miller, about the box of letters, about 5 years of correspondence that had never reached me because she'd moved and the mail couldn't find its way. Maggie listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. I moved 3 months after you came to live with me, she finally said. The old house had too many memories of Catherine. I couldn't. She stopped, composed herself. I needed a fresh start, for both of us. You couldn't have known. No, but I should have thought about forwarding addresses, about the possibility that someone might try to reach you. She shook her head. I was so focused on protecting you from them that I didn't consider they might be trying to make amends. It wasn't your fault. Maybe not. But I'm sorry anyway. She reached across the table and took my hand. Does this change how you feel about Patricia? About everything? I stared at our intertwined fingers, her hand weathered with age, mine younger but carrying its own kind of wear. I don't know, I admitted. I spent 13 years believing they didn't care, that they'd moved on without a second thought, finding out that at least one of them tried. It complicates things. Complicated isn't bad, Maggie said gently. Simple stories are for children. Real life is messy. I know. I just don't know what to do with the mess. The answer came, as answers often do, from an unexpected direction. 3 days later, I received a certified letter at my office. Official-looking envelope, law firm's return address in the corner. I assumed it was something to do with the scholarship program. We dealt with legal paperwork constantly, contracts and agreements and liability waivers. I opened it without much thought, and then I read it. And then I read it again. And then I sat down very slowly because my legs had stopped working. The letter was from a firm called Morrison & Associates, attorneys at law. Dear Ms. Emma Catherine Reynolds, we are writing to inform you that you have been named as a beneficiary in the last will and testament of Mrs. Eleanor Grace Morrison, who passed away on March 15th of this year. Mrs. Morrison was your maternal grandmother. I stopped breathing. Grandmother Eleanor, Patricia's mother. The woman I'd met only a handful of times as a child. She'd lived in Florida, far from our Massachusetts home, and there had been some kind of falling out with Richard that I'd never fully understood. I remembered her vaguely. White hair, warm smile, the smell of lavender perfume. She'd sent me birthday cards with $5 bills tucked inside until I was about 10, then the cards had stopped coming. I'd assumed she'd died, or forgotten about me. or sided with my parents after the storm. I kept reading. As the sole beneficiary of Mrs. Morrison's estate, you are entitled to the following: the sum of $847,000 in liquid assets, the property located at 742 Ocean View Drive, Clearwater, Florida, and various personal effects as detailed in the attached inventory. Additionally, Mrs. Morrison left specific instructions that a sealed letter be delivered to you upon her passing. This letter is enclosed with this correspondence. Please contact our offices at your earliest convenience to discuss the transfer of assets and any questions you may have. Sincerely, Harold Morrison, Esquire. I set down the legal letter with numb fingers. Inside the envelope, there was another envelope, smaller, handwritten address. My grandmother's handwriting. I recognized it from those long-ago birthday cards. For Emma, to be opened after my death. My hands were shaking as I broke the seal. My dearest Emma, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I hope I went peacefully in my sleep, dreaming of the ocean. But however it happened, I want you to know that my last thoughts were of you. I've been watching you, sweetheart, from a distance, for years. You probably don't know this, but I hired a private investigator after you disappeared. Your mother called me, hysterical, about a month after that terrible night. She told me what Richard had done, what Lily had claimed, how you'd been hit by a car and then vanished into the foster system. Patricia begged me to help find you, but she also begged me not to tell Richard. She was afraid of what he'd do, how he'd react. She was always afraid of him. That was her tragedy. I found you within 6 months. Dr. Margaret Harper, the house on Maple Street, then the apartment on Fifth Avenue after she moved, your new school, your grades, your college acceptance, everything. I never reached out because I didn't know if you wanted to be found, because I thought maybe you needed time and space to heal, because I was a coward too, in my own way, afraid of rejection, afraid you'd blame me for not stopping Richard that night even though I wasn't even there. But I watched, and I was proud, Emma. So incredibly proud. I saw you graduate college, saw the article about your scholarship program in the newspaper, saw you change lives, one student at a time, turning your pain into purpose. You became everything I always knew you could be. Now here's the part that matters. After I found you, I kept investigating. I needed to understand what had really happened that night, why Richard had believed Lily so completely, why no one had questioned her story. What I found made me sick. Lily's accusations weren't spontaneous. They were planned, methodically, deliberately planned. I found evidence, witnesses, records, things even your parents never saw, that proved Lily had been setting you up for weeks before that night. She created the fake social media account. She practiced the bruise story with her friends, asking them hypothetically, what would make parents believe one kid over another? She even wrote out a script, Emma. A script, detailing exactly what she would say and when she would say it. I have copies of everything. The investigator's full report is in my safe deposit box. The key is with Mr. Morrison. I'm leaving it to you because you deserve to know the truth. The whole truth. I thought about confronting Richard and Patricia with this evidence while I was alive. But Patricia already suspected. That's why she spent years writing letters you never received, drowning in guilt. And Richard would never have believed me. He would have accused me of fabricating evidence to hurt him. He hated me, Emma, because I always saw through him, saw the insecurity behind the arrogance, saw how he needed to control everyone around him because he couldn't control himself. So I stayed quiet, watched from a distance, waited. And now I'm giving it to you. Do what you want with it. Confront them or don't. Forgive them or don't. The choice is yours. Just know this. You were never sick. You were never broken. You were never the problem. You were a child caught in a dysfunctional family, targeted by a sibling who learned that manipulation worked better than honesty. None of it was your fault. I love you, sweetheart. I always have. I'm sorry I wasn't braver while I was alive. Be happy. Be free. Be everything they told you that you couldn't be. All my love, forever. Grandma Eleanor. I sat in my office and sobbed. For my grandmother, who had loved me from afar. for the evidence that proved what I'd always known, that Lily's accusations had been calculated, deliberate, premeditated, for the $847,000 and the beach house in Florida, and the life that could have been different if anyone had just asked questions 13 years ago, for all of it. The safe deposit box contained a thick manila folder. The investigator's report was thorough, 63 pages documenting everything Eleanor had described. Interviews with Lily's childhood friends, some of whom had felt guilty for years about their role in the scheme. Screenshots of messages Lily had sent at the time, recovered from old phones and cloud backups. A copy of the script Eleanor had mentioned, handwritten in Lily's loopy preteen handwriting, complete with stage directions. When Dad asks about the bruise, start crying first. Make voice shake. Say, "I didn't want to tell you because I was scared of her." If they don't believe me, show the screenshots. Act surprised that I still have them, like I was trying to delete them. If Emma tries to defend herself, talk over her. Get hysterical. They always pay attention when I'm hysterical. I read it 3 times, 12 years old. She'd been 12 years old, and she'd written a script for destroying her sister's life. The folder also contained evidence I hadn't expected. Records showing that Richard had been investigated by Child Protective Services after my hospitalization. Detective Franklin had pushed for a full inquiry, but Richard's law firm connections had gotten the case buried, the file sealed, the questions dropped. Power protecting power, the way it always worked. I called Maggie that night. "I need to tell you something," I said, "and then I need your advice." I told her everything: the inheritance, the letter, the investigator's report, the script. When I finished, Maggie was silent for a long moment. "What do you want to do?" she finally asked. "I don't know." I stared at the folder on my kitchen table. "Part of me wants to send copies to everyone Lily knows, her friends, her employer, everyone. Let them see who she really is. And the other part? The other part is tired. Tired of carrying this. Tired of letting them take up space in my head." I rubbed my eyes. Eleanor left me almost $1 million and a house on the beach. I could just take it. Move on. Let them live with their own demons. "You could," Maggie agreed. "But there's a third option." "What?" "The truth. Not revenge. Just truth. You've already told your story publicly. What if you gave them the chance to hear the whole story privately, to see the evidence, to make their own choices about what to do with it?" "You mean, show them the report? Richard and Patricia?" "And Lily. Let them all see it. Together. And then walk away, knowing you've done everything you can." I thought about it. "There's something else," I said slowly. "Something that's been bothering me since the graduation." "What?" Lily looked broken when I saw her at the ceremony. Not just shocked, broken. Like she'd been waiting for this to happen. Like she'd been dreading it for years. I paused. I spent 13 years hating her, but looking at her face, I don't know. I wonder if she's been punishing herself this whole time. That doesn't excuse what she did. No, it doesn't. I took a breath. But maybe it explains it, and maybe understanding is worth something. 2 days later, I got a phone call that changed everything. It was David, my deputy director, and his voice was tense. "Emma, I need you to come to the hospital. Now." My blood went cold. "What happened? Is it Maggie?" No, Maggie's fine. It's..." He hesitated. "It's Dr. Harper. She collapsed this morning. Stroke, they think. She's in surgery now." The phone nearly slipped from my hand. "Which hospital?" "St. Mary's. Emma, I'm so sorry." I hung up and grabbed my keys. The drive to St. Mary's took 20 minutes that felt like 20 hours. I ran through the emergency entrance, gave Maggie's name, and was directed to the surgical waiting area on the 4th floor, and that's where I saw him. He was standing by the window, staring out at the parking lot below. Tall, brown hair, graying at the temples, familiar in a way I couldn't immediately place. Then he turned, and I recognized him, Ethan Cole, the boy from chemistry class. The boy whose existence had triggered Lily's revenge scheme. The boy I hadn't seen in 13 years. He was wearing scrubs. A hospital ID badge hung around his neck. Dr. Ethan Cole, neurosurgery. Emma? His eyes widened. Emma Reynolds? Ethan. I stopped, confused. Why are you here? I'm the attending neurosurgeon. His voice was steady, professional, but I could see the shock beneath it. Dr. Harper was brought in this morning with an acute ischemic stroke. I performed the thrombectomy. She's stable. The procedure went well. We were able to remove the clot and restore blood flow. He took a step toward me. She's in recovery now. You can see her in about an hour. Relief flooded through me, so intense my knees nearly buckled. Thank you, I breathed. Thank you. It's my job. He paused, something shifting in his expression. But Emma, there's something else. Something I've wanted to say to you for 13 years. I blinked. What? Can we sit down, just for a few minutes? I looked at the clock. Maggie was in recovery. There was nothing I could do but wait. Okay, I said. We sat in the uncomfortable plastic chairs of the waiting room. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then Ethan said, I know what happened. After that night. With your family. I stiffened. How? I heard things over the years. Rumors, and then, last week, I was at the graduation. My niece was in Lily's class. I heard your speech. He looked at me, and I saw something in his eyes I hadn't expected. Guilt. It was my fault, he said quietly. What happened to you? It was because of me. What? No, Ethan. Lily's obsession with you wasn't. I know it was her lie, her manipulation, but I was the trigger. He ran a hand through his hair, the same gesture I remembered from 15 years ago when he was struggling with stoichiometry. After you got kicked out, I tried to find out what happened. I heard Lily had accused you of spreading rumors, of trying to steal me. I realized, if I hadn't asked you to study with me, if I hadn't talked to you in the hallway that day, then she would have found another reason, I said firmly. You didn't do anything wrong, Ethan. You asked a classmate for homework help. That's not a crime. I know. Logically, I know, but I've carried it with me all these years. He looked down at his hands. After I heard what happened, I couldn't stop thinking about it, about you, about how a simple conversation could cascade into something so devastating. Is that why you became a doctor? He nodded slowly. Partly. I wanted to help people, make up for the harm I felt responsible for, even though I know rationally it wasn't my fault. He paused. And I've been following your work, the scholarship program, for years. Following it? Emma? He took a breath. I've been donating anonymously, to second chances, since the beginning. I stared at him. What? The anonymous donor who funded your first 3 scholarships? That was me. And the matching grant last year that let you expand to 5 more universities? Also me. He gave a small, sad smile. I'm a neurosurgeon. I make good money. And I wanted to, I don't know, contribute to something good. Something that came out of all that pain. I didn't know what to say. You didn't have to do that, I finally managed. You didn't owe me anything. I know, but it felt right. He met my eyes. And standing here now, having just operated on the woman who became your real mother, it feels like things have come full circle somehow. I thought about Eleanor's letter, about Patricia's undelivered correspondence, about the tangled web of guilt and love and regret that connected all of us. Maybe they have, I said. Maggie woke up 2 hours later. She was groggy, confused, hooked up to machines that beeped and whirred. But when she saw me standing by her bed, she smiled. You're here, she whispered. Of course I'm here. I took her hand, being careful of the IV line. Where else would I be? The surgery? Successful. Full recovery expected, according to Dr. Cole. I paused. Who, it turns out, is Ethan Cole, the boy from chemistry class. Maggie's eyes widened slightly. Small world. Smaller than I thought. I squeezed her hand. He's been donating to second chances. Anonymously, for years. She closed her eyes, but she was smiling. Maybe there's more good in people than you think. Maybe there is. I sat with her until she fell asleep again, holding her hand, watching the monitors track her heartbeat. She was going to be okay. We were all going to be okay. 2 weeks later, I arranged a meeting. It took some doing. Richard initially refused. He'd been avoiding any contact since the graduation, but Patricia convinced him. "We owe her this much," she apparently said. "We owe her more than we can ever repay." We met at a neutral location. A conference room in a hotel downtown. Impersonal, professional, no memories attached. Richard and Patricia arrived together. They looked older than they had at the graduation, as if the past 2 weeks had aged them years. Richard's arrogance had crumpled into something smaller, more uncertain. Patricia's hands wouldn't stop trembling. Lily came separately. She was the last to arrive, slipping through the door like she expected to be ambushed. When she saw me, she froze. "Sit down," I said. My voice was calm. I'd rehearsed this. "All of you." They sat. I placed 2 items on the table, the box of Patricia's letters and the manila folder from Eleanor's safe deposit box. "Before we start, I need to tell you something." I looked at Patricia. "I received your letters, all 43 of them. A neighbor of Maggie's old house kept them after she moved. I didn't get them until 2 weeks ago." Patricia made a sound, half sob, half gasp. "You never? All this time?" "I never knew you tried," I confirmed. "I thought you'd forgotten me, moved on. It would have changed things if I'd known. Maybe not everything, but something." Richard cleared his throat. "Emma, I want to say—" "Not yet." I held up my hand. "I'm not finished." I opened the manila folder. "This is an investigator's report commissioned by Grandmother Eleanor before she died. She left me her entire estate. That's a separate conversation. But more importantly, she left me this." I spread the pages across the table. The screenshots, the witness statements, the script. "This is evidence that Lily's accusations against me were premeditated, planned weeks in advance. She created a fake social media account to frame me. She rehearsed the bruise story with her friends. She wrote a script." I tapped the handwritten page, detailing exactly how to manipulate you into believing her. Silence. Richard picked up the script with trembling hands. "Read it." His face went gray. Patricia was already crying. Lily hadn't moved, hadn't spoken. She stared at the evidence like it was a bomb about to explode. "I was 12, she finally whispered. "Yes, you were 12, and you deliberately destroyed your sister's life because a boy liked her instead of you. I didn't think—" Her voice cracked. "I didn't think he'd actually throw you out. I just wanted to get you in trouble. I wanted them to pay attention to me for once without you being perfect at everything. I wasn't perfect." My voice stayed level, but it took effort. "I was invisible. I was the kid who learned not to need anything because there was never anything left over after you took your share." "I know." Tears were streaming down Lily's face now. "I know that now. I've known it for years. Do you think I don't hate myself? Do you think I haven't spent every day since then knowing what I did? Then why didn't you tell them the truth?" "Because I was scared." The words exploded out of her. "At first, I was scared of getting in trouble. Then I was scared they'd hate me. Then so much time had passed that I didn't know how to undo it. And then I convinced myself that maybe it hadn't been that bad, that you'd probably landed on your feet somewhere, that you were probably fine. I almost died, Lily." "I know." I lay in a hospital bed for a week with a fractured skull, wondering if my parents even cared. "I know. I spent years in therapy dealing with trauma that you caused." "I know." She was sobbing now, ugly and raw. "I know what I did. I've always known. Why do you think I told people you were dead? Because it was easier than admitting you were alive somewhere, hating me, and I deserved every bit of it." The room was silent except for Lily's crying. Richard set down the script. His hands were shaking so badly the paper rattled. "I believed her," he said, his voice hollow. "I believed every word. I called you sick. I threw you out in a storm." He looked at me and I saw something I'd never seen before in his eyes. Despair. I threw away my daughter because I was too proud to ask questions. Yes, you did. I'm sorry. The words seemed to cost him everything. I know it's not enough. I know nothing I say can undo what I did. But I'm sorry, Emma. I'm so goddamn sorry. I looked at him, this man who had been my father, who had been the judge and executioner of my childhood, who had used the word sick like a weapon. I looked at Patricia, still crying, clutching the letters I'd never received. I looked at Lily, broken and sobbing, finally facing the truth she'd run from for 13 years. And I felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, no vindication, just emptiness. And beneath that, something that might have been peace. I didn't come here for apologies, I said finally. Apologies don't give me back 13 years. They don't undo the nightmares or the therapy bills or the years I spent wondering what was wrong with me. Richard flinched. I came here because I wanted you to know the truth, to see the evidence, to understand, finally, that I was never the problem. I gathered the papers back into the folder. What you do with that knowledge is up to you. What do you want from us? Patricia asked, her voice small. Nothing. The word surprised even me, but it was true. I used to want so many things from you. Recognition, apology, acknowledgement that you'd destroyed something precious. But now? I shook my head. I have a mother who loves me, a career that matters, a life I built myself from the wreckage you left behind. I don't need anything from you anymore. So this is it? Richard's voice cracked. This is goodbye? It's closure, I said. Whether it's goodbye or not, I don't know yet. Maybe someday we can talk again, when the wounds aren't so fresh, when I've had time to process everything. I stood up. But for now, I need distance. From all of you. I need to figure out how to fit this new information into the story I've been telling myself for 13 years. Patricia rose halfway. Emma, please. I'm not saying never. I'm saying not now. I looked at her, and for the first time, I let myself feel something like compassion. You tried, Patricia. The letters prove that. It doesn't fix everything, but it matters. It matters that you tried. She sank back into her chair, nodding through her tears. I turned to Lily. You were 12, I said. A child, a jealous, attention-starved child who made a catastrophic choice. I understand that now, even if I can't forgive it yet. Lily looked up at me, face swollen, mascara running. You've spent 13 years punishing yourself, I continued. I can see it in your face. The guilt has been eating you alive. She nodded, barely perceptible. That's your consequence to carry. Not mine. I'm done carrying things that don't belong to me. I picked up the folder and the box of letters. Goodbye, I said, for now. And I walked out. The beach house in Clearwater was beautiful. White walls, big windows overlooking the ocean, a garden that had gone wild but was slowly being tamed, the smell of salt and flowers and possibility. I'd kept it. Sold my apartment in the city, transferred the scholarship program's headquarters to Florida, started a new chapter. Maggie came to visit often. Her recovery had been remarkable. Ethan Cole's surgery had saved her life, and she'd bounced back with the determination that defined everything she did. We'd sit on the porch in the evenings, watching the sunset paint the sky in oranges and pinks, talking about everything and nothing. Eleanor would be happy, Maggie said one evening, seeing you here, building a life in her house. I think she would. I sipped my iced tea. I found her photo albums last week. Pictures of my mother as a little girl. Pictures of me, as a baby. She kept everything. She loved you from afar. Yeah. I watched a pelican dive into the waves. I wish I'd known her better. Known she was watching. Known someone in that family actually saw me. You know now. That's something. It is. The scholarship program had grown beyond anything I'd imagined. 12 universities now. 83 students helped and counting. A waiting list that grew longer every month. Media attention that brought more donations, more partnerships, more opportunities. Ethan Cole had continued his anonymous support, though it wasn't anonymous anymore. We'd had coffee a few times, talked about the strange paths that had brought us here. He was a good man, kind, thoughtful, still carrying guilt he didn't deserve, but learning to transform it into purpose. "Maybe that's all any of us can do," he said once. "Take the broken pieces and build something useful out of them." "Maybe," I agreed. I heard from Patricia occasionally. Short emails at first, updates about her life. She'd started therapy, joined a support group for parents estranged from their children. Richard had moved out. The marriage, it turned out, had been held together by denial and habit, and once those crumbled, there was nothing left. "I'm learning to be honest with myself," she wrote. "It's harder than I expected, but I'm trying." I responded eventually. Brief messages. Nothing deep, but contact at least. A thread connecting us across the distance. Lily I hadn't spoken to. She'd sent one letter, handwritten, pages long, a confessional that must have taken her weeks to write. Every detail of her childhood resentment, every step of her calculated scheme, every year of guilt that followed. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," she wrote at the end. "I know I don't deserve it. I just needed you to know that I see myself clearly now. I see what I did. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be better." I read the letter once, filed it away, didn't respond. Maybe someday. But not yet. I'm 29 now. A year has passed since the graduation, since the letters, since the confrontation in that conference room. Every October 15th, on the anniversary of the storm, I drive to the cemetery where Eleanor is buried. I bring flowers, lavender, her favorite, and sit by her headstone, telling her about my year, the students we've helped, the lives we've changed, the woman I'm still becoming. "Thank you," I say every time, "for watching, for believing, for leaving me the truth." The wind rustles through the oak trees, and I like to think she hears me. Last week, I gave a speech at a conference for foster care advocates. Afterward, a young woman approached me, 17 years old, hair dyed purple, eyes that had seen too much. "I heard your story," she said. "The one about being thrown out in the storm." "Yeah?" "My mom kicked me out last month, said I was too much trouble." She looked down at her scuffed sneakers. "I've been couch surfing. Don't know what's going to happen when I run out of couches." I looked at her. This girl who could have been me 15 years ago. "What's your name?" "Riley." "Riley, do you have somewhere to be right now?" She shook her head. "Then let me buy you dinner, and let's talk about options." We walked out of the conference center together. The sky was gray, threatening rain. "Does the story have a happy ending?" Riley asked. "Your story, I mean. After the storm." I thought about it. About Maggie and Ethan and Eleanor. About Patricia's letters and Lily's confession. About the beach house and the scholarship program and the 83 students and counting. About the 15-year-old girl who was told she was sick and the 29-year-old woman who knew, finally, that she never was. "It has a real ending," I said. "Which is better than happy, I think. It has growth and pain and forgiveness and boundaries. It has people who failed me and people who saved me and the understanding that both of those things can be true at the same time." Riley considered this. "So it's complicated." "Life is complicated." I smiled. But complicated doesn't mean hopeless. Sometimes it's the complicated stories that matter most. We found a diner around the corner, sat in a booth by the window, ordered burgers and milkshakes, and I told Riley about second chances, about applications and deadlines and the network of people ready to help her if she'd let them. By the time we finished eating, the rain had started. It streamed down the windows, blurring the streetlights into soft halos. "I used to be afraid of storms," Riley admitted, watching the water run down the glass. "After my mom kicked me out, every time it rained, I'd panic. Like I was back on that first night, not knowing where to go." "I understand," I said. And I did. More than she knew. "How did you stop being afraid?" I thought about the question, about all the nights I'd woken up gasping, hearing thunder, feeling phantom rain on my skin. "I didn't stop being afraid," I finally said. "I just learned that fear doesn't have to be the end of the story. That you can be afraid and still keep moving, still keep building, still keep choosing who you want to be. Riley nodded slowly. Something shifted in her eyes. Not hope, exactly, but the beginning of something that might grow into hope someday. The storm that almost destroyed me became the catalyst for everything good in my life, I said. That doesn't mean I'm grateful it happened. I'm not, but I'm proud of who I became afterward, and that's what matters now. Outside, the rain fell harder. Inside, we were warm and dry and together. Come on, I said, pulling out my phone. Let's make some calls. Find you somewhere safe to sleep tonight. Riley smiled. Small, tentative, but real. Okay, she said. Okay. My name is Emma Reynolds. 13 years ago, I was thrown away by the people who were supposed to love me. I was called sick, broken, too much trouble to keep. I walked into a storm with nothing and nearly didn't walk out. But I did. I survived. And then I did more than survive. I built something beautiful from the wreckage. A career, a family I chose, a legacy that will outlive me. The girl who was told she didn't belong now helps other kids find where they fit. The girl who was called sick now heals others with her story. The girl who walked into a storm now holds umbrellas for those still caught in the rain. This is my life. Complicated, painful, beautiful, and it's entirely mine.